Well, certainly the military has not put up anything like a decent fight, particularly when you consider that the military was supposed to be greater in number than the Afghan fighters. It certainly is far better trained and equipped. And up till recently, it has melted away. It hasn't, it's dropped its weapons and ran away. What we're seeing now is some resistance, particularly in areas like Kunduz, but that resistance is limited to a number of special forces or small numbers of highly trained soldiers. So, unless the government has some hidden ace up its sleeve, the military has been unimpressive. And the government itself hasn't really shown any strong leadership. What it appears to have done is adopted a strategy of narrative warfare rather than physical warfare. And what they're banking on is that this bad news, as it were, coming out of Kabul, out of Afghanistan in general, will provoke a backlash within the United States and Europe, and that people will say that because they dislike the Taliban and that there are alleged human rights abuses, that people would get their governments to re-engage. But of course, even if that were to happen, we would continue the unsatisfactory state of affairs where there was violence, maybe at a lower level, continually over the last 2 decades. So the government has a obscure strategy which may almost certainly not work.
How much of this spiraling violence do you think is linked to that withdrawal of US and NATO forces earlier this year? And can you talk us through what role they're playing now?
Well, the violence, of course, is directly linked to that because the Taliban over the last 20 years have made it clear that their victory is the eventual withdrawal of foreign troops. And so, as far as they're concerned, they have victory, and then they have just a little job to do to finish off whatever resistance remains to regain the power that they feel they were wrongly deprived of. What are the roles that the military are playing? Well, it seems that the small numbers of foreign forces left are playing a role, an advisory role, possibly also using special force elements. They are bringing in airstrikes, which are being produced by the Americans and other foreign forces. But those airstrikes are actually counterproductive in the main because airstrikes can only really be effective in the open, where large formations of Taliban fighters can be detected. But that is not what the Taliban are doing. They are moving around the country in undercover, and they're fighting within towns and cities now. And if you do an airstrike, which sadly some Western airstrikes are taking place within towns and cities, you are actually using a different level of ethical restraint than Western forces would use in Europe and elsewhere. You cannot hope to drop us even a 500-pound bomb within a city and believe that you can get away without causing civilian casualties. And we've had 27 casualties in the last few days, of children alone, and over 137 odd have been very badly injured. And that is not going to lead to political success, even if it slows down the Taliban advance.
Dr. Afzal